The sun had barely risen over the red-gold savanna when the drums began to beat across the village of Mbara. Their sound rolled like distant thunder, deep and slow, calling every soul to gather near the elder circle. Dust rose beneath running feet, goats bleated in confusion, and mothers whispered prayers under their breath. Something unusual was happening. Everyone could feel it in the air. Even the wind seemed restless, sweeping across the grasslands in sharp breaths that carried strange echoes from the distant forests.
Among the villagers stood a 12-year-old boy named Kaito, thin as a reed but sharp-eyed like a young hawk. He stood behind the crowd, clutching a small wooden carving of his late father. Kaito felt the drums in his chest like a second heartbeat. He knew something was coming, something powerful, something the ancestors had whispered about in stories told around the fire.
At the center of the gathering, Elder Rono lifted his staff toward the sky. His white hair blew in the wind like river foam, and the red, black, and ochre patterns painted on his face made him look more spirit than man. A hush fell as he turned slowly toward the villagers. "Children of Mbara," he said, voice echoing like the rumble of a lion, "the forest spirits have awakened." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The old tales said the spirits slept for decades, only rising when the balance of the land was threatened. Some villagers stepped back, others fell to their knees. Kaito felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Elder Rono continued, "Last night, the wind carried a warning, a whisper from the spirit of the mountain. That name alone struck fear into many. The spirit of the mountain, the ancient being who guarded the forests, rivers, and every creature that lived upon the earth. It was said to appear only when testing the heart of a chosen one." Rono's voice softened. "The spirit has chosen a child from this village, a child whose courage must be proven before the next moon rises." Kaito's breath caught. Around him, boys and girls whispered nervously to each other, wondering who the spirit had chosen, praying it wasn't them. Even the adults exchanged fearful looks. The spirit's test was no game. Many had tried in the old days, and only a few ever returned.
Elder Rono lifted a small gourd carved with spiraling symbols. The spirit sent a sign, a mark on this sacred vessel. The one who sees the mark glow under the sunlight is the chosen one. He began passing the gourd through the crowd. One by one, children peered into it, their faces full of dread and curiosity. The gourd remained dull and lifeless in each pair of hands. No glow. No sign.
Then it reached Kaito. He hesitated, sweating under the heat of the rising sun. The moment his fingers brushed the wooden surface, the gourd pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. Gasps erupted around him. The faint spiral symbol inside the gourd shimmered with a warm golden light, glowing brighter and brighter until Kaito dropped it with a cry. It hit the dusty ground, but didn't break. Instead, it rolled to a perfect stop at his bare feet. The glow faded, but the message was clear. "Kaito," Elder Rono whispered, his voice trembling with awe and fear. "The spirit of the mountain has chosen you."
The villagers backed away from him, forming a wide circle as though he had suddenly become untouchable. Some whispered blessings. Others murmured that the spirit must be angry. A few even cried softly, thinking the boy would not survive what awaited him. Kaito felt his legs weaken. "Elder, I don't understand. Why me? I'm nobody." Rono placed a hand on his shoulder. "The spirits never choose by accident." Kaito swallowed hard. His father had always said the same thing before he passed away. When destiny knocks, it never knocks without purpose. But destiny felt heavy now, heavier than any burden he had ever known. As the villagers dispersed, Elder Rono guided Kaito to the shade of the great baobab tree. The wide trunk hummed softly with age, its roots gripping the earth like ancient claws. "You must leave at sunset," the elder said. "You will journey alone to the whispering forest, climb the sacred ridge, and reach the mountain's heart before the moon is full. There, the spirit will reveal your test." Kaito's voice cracked. "And if I fail?" Roro closed his eyes. "The mountain will keep your spirit forever." For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the dry savanna wind whispered through the branches. "Elder," Kaito said at last, "what if the spirit made a mistake? What if I am too weak?" Roro stared deep into his eyes, and for the first time, Kaito saw something surprising: fear. Even the wise elder could not pretend confidence. "The spirit never tests strength," Roro finally said. "It tests the heart." Kaito nodded, but his stomach twisted with dread. He felt small, lost, afraid. But beneath that fear was a quiet spark, something like determination.
As sunset painted the sky in burning red and purple, the villagers gathered silently. Kaito stepped forward with nothing but a small satchel, his father's carving, and a torch that flickered in the wind. The forest loomed ahead, dark, endless, whispering secrets. And when Kaito took his first step into the shadows, the wind carried a distant voice across the land. A deep voice, ancient and gentle, calling his name. Kaito. And so his journey began.
Kaito entered the whispering forest just as the last light of sunset bled away behind the trees. The shadows stretched long and thin, like dark fingers reaching across the forest floor. Crickets chirped nervously. Leaves rustled without wind. The whole place felt alive, watching him, studying him, weighing his every step. He tried to steady his breathing. "I can do this," he whispered, though the tremble in his voice betrayed him.
Forest. Just as the last light of sunset bled away behind the trees, the shadows stretched long and thin, like dark fingers reaching across the forest floor. Crickets chirped nervously. Leaves rustled without wind. The whole place felt alive, watching him, studying him, weighing his every step. He tried to steady his breathing. "I can do this," he whispered, though the tremble in his voice betrayed him. The forest path was narrow, twisting between towering trees whose bark looked like wrinkled faces. Vines hung like old ropes, gently swaying even though the air was still. Fireflies drifted around him, but unlike the warm yellow ones he had seen near the river before, these glowed with a soft blue light, blinking in strange patterns, as if sending messages to something unseen. Kaito clutched his father's wooden carving tight against his chest. "Father," he murmured, "walk with me."
As he moved deeper into the forest, the air grew cooler. Mist curled around his feet, carrying the faint scent of wet earth, and something else, something metallic, like old iron. The whispering that gave the forest its name began softly at first, just a few murmurs between the branches, but soon the voices grew louder, overlapping one another, like waves crashing. "Kaito, child of Mbara, chosen of the mountain." Kaito froze. His torch flickered violently, then steadied again. "Who's there?" Only the whispers answered. He forced himself to keep walking. Every few steps, he thought he saw movement, a shadow darting behind a tree, a shape gliding across the path, glowing eyes staring from behind leaves, but when he looked properly, nothing was there. Hours passed, or at least it felt that way. The moon rose high overhead, filtered through the thick branches like broken shards of silver. Kaito's legs ached, his throat felt dry, but he kept going, guided by the old tales. Keep the moon to your right, and you will reach the sacred ridge. But the forest seemed determined to confuse him. At one point, the path split into 3. He looked around, trying to remember Elder Rono's instructions, but none of the paths felt right. The moonlight didn't help, the branches obscured too much. Then he heard it, a soft crunch behind him. He spun around. Who's there? The torchlight wavered. From behind a giant tree stepped a tall, slender figure draped in tattered leaves and vines. Its skin shimmered like dark stone, and its eyes glowed yellow, piercing and calm. The figure moved with no sound, as if floating. Kaito stumbled back. A spirit? The creature tilted its head slowly, studying him like a curious animal. It was neither threatening nor welcoming, just observing him with ancient patience. Kaito forced his shaking legs to stand firm. Are you the spirit of the mountain? The creature blinked, then shook its head once. Not the spirit. Another guardian? A watcher? A test? The creature raised one long, branch-like arm and pointed toward the leftmost path. Then, without a sound, it dissolved into falling leaves that scattered across the forest floor. Kaito gasped. He fell to his knees, heart pounding, as the leaves swirled around him and vanished. When he finally stood again, the left path seemed darker, narrower, and less welcoming than the others. But the spirit, whatever it was, had pointed that way. Kaito swallowed hard. If you guided me, then I trust you. He took the left path.
The deeper he went, the heavier the forest felt, as if every step took him farther away from safety. The whispers around him changed, shifting from curiosity to warning. Turn back. Not ready. Too young.
Kaito covered his ears, shaking his head. No, I was chosen. I won't fail. The voices fell silent, as if surprised by his defiance. Not long after, he reached a small clearing. At its center burned a strange fire, not red or orange, but blue like the fireflies, flickering quietly as if trapped in another world. Heat didn't radiate from it. Instead, a soft chill spread outward like cool mist. Kaito approached cautiously. And then he saw it. Carved into the dirt around the blue fire were symbols, ancient symbols he had only seen once before. On his father's carving. His hands trembled as he pulled out the wooden figure. Yes, the same spirals, the same lines. His father had carved them years ago, saying they were reminders of the old ways. Kaito never understood, until now. A tear slipped down his cheek. Father, did you know this day would come? Suddenly, the blue fire flared upward. Kaito! He staggered back. The fire formed a tall silhouette inside its glow, a shape of a man with no details, just a shadow made of light. You have entered the forest with fear, the voice said, deep and calm. But fear is not shame. Fear is a companion. It walks with every warrior. Kaito tried to speak, but his voice refused to come. You carry the carving of the one who came before you, the spirit form continued. Your father faced the mountain once, and he passed its test. Kaito's heart stopped. My father? My father climbed a mountain? Yes, and he left you the key. Kaito looked down at the carving, confusion twisting through him. But why didn't he tell me? Because some journeys must begin in ignorance. Only then can the truth shape the heart. The blue spirit slowly faded until the fire dimmed back to its soft glow. Kaito dropped to his knees. A storm of emotions crashed inside him. Pride, sorrow, confusion, fear. His father had been here. His father had walked this path, and now he was walking the same one. He wiped his face and stood straighter. I'll continue. Whatever test waits for me, I'll face it. The forest became silent again, as if listening. Then, far in the distance, he heard something new, a faint rumbling, like thunder mixed with roaring water. The mountain was near, and whatever waited there was awakening.
By dawn, the dark woods had thinned, and Kaito finally stepped out onto the open highlands. The cold air bit his cheeks, and the wind howled across the cliffs like a wounded beast. Before him stretched the sacred ridge, a jagged spine of stone leading upward toward the great mountain, the mountain of Oru, home of the ancient spirit. The peak loomed higher than clouds, wrapped in swirling mist, glowing faintly under the rising sun. It did not look like a place where humans belonged. It looked like a place carved for gods, spirits, and skyborn beings. Kaito tightened his grip on his father's carving. I'm close. I can feel it. He began the climb.
The ridge twisted sharply, with loose stones ready to betray him. Several times he slipped and scraped his knees, yet he pushed onward. Birds circled above him, huge black eagles, their cries echoing through the sky like war horns. Their shadows swept over him like dark wings of fate. As he climbed higher, the forest below shrank into a sea of green. The world felt vast, too vast for a boy his age, but he continued.
Before long, he reached a narrow ledge that wrapped around a cliff face. The path became dangerously thin, barely wide enough for his feet. One wrong step, and the wind would take him. But something else troubled him. Carved into the cliff walls were markings, those same ancient spiral symbols. He stared at them, tracing one with his fingers. Father definitely came this way, he whispered. Suddenly, a voice answered, not from behind him, not from the sky, but from within the stone itself.
Why do you climb, child of Mambara? Kaito jerked back. The stone shimmered and cracked, and from within it emerged a second spirit, this one shaped like a woman, her form woven of light and sand. She seemed gentle, though her presence made the ledge tremble. Who are you? Kaito asked. I am Luma, keeper of the ridge, she replied. Her voice was calm, like a river flowing on a quiet night. I watch those who dare to climb toward the mountain's heart. Kaito stepped back nervously. If you're here to stop me, I won't turn around. Luma's shimmering face softened. Bravery is not the same as foolishness, little one. Many came before you, thinking courage alone would carry them. Only few reached the peak. Fewer returned. Kaito swallowed hard. I must continue. The spirit of the mountain called me. Did it? Yes, he said firmly. A sign appeared. The gourd glowed. I was chosen. Luma studied him in silence. Then she raised her glowing hand, and the wind around Kaito slowed, as if time held its breath. The mountain does not choose lightly. Since ancient days, it has tested only those whose hearts are in danger of being lost. Kaito frowned. Lost? My heart? What does that mean? The spirit stepped closer, her form flickering like flame. Your heart carries a shadow, a weight you do not speak of, a longing that blinds you. He thought instantly of his father, of the nights he cried silently, wishing the man would return, wishing for one more story by the fire, one more laugh. Kaito's hands trembled as Luma's words sank in. He felt it, an emptiness he'd ignored for years. The nights without his father, the fear of losing his family, the loneliness he carried deep in his chest. You mean my shadow, he whispered. Yes, Luma said. To reach the peak, you must face it. Only those who accept their own shadow can meet the spirit at the mountain's heart. Kaito clenched his teeth, gripping the carving. I am ready. The wind shifted, carrying whispers of encouragement from the forest below. The blue fire from the clearing flickered in his memory, guiding him forward. Higher and higher he climbed, the wind lashing against him. Mist wrapped the mountain like a cold blanket. Stones gave way beneath his boots,
and the sheer drop below made his stomach churn. Every step was a struggle, but he forced himself onward. He thought of the spirit's words. Courage alone is not enough. Only acceptance of your shadow grants passage. At last, the peak emerged from the swirling clouds, jagged rocks piercing the sky. Beyond it, he glimpsed a strange glow, a pulsating light, both warm and cold, as if the mountain itself was alive.
The mountain's heart awaited him, a cavern carved into the stone, glowing with the same blue fire he had seen in the clearing. The air vibrated with power, humming deep in his chest. Kaito stepped inside cautiously. The walls shimmered with spiraling patterns, carved centuries ago, echoing the symbols on his father's gourd. The glow illuminated something in the center, a pool of liquid light, swirling like a storm trapped in glass. He approached, mesmerized. "Is this the heart?" A voice echoed from the pool, calm yet powerful. "Welcome, child of Mbara. You have come far, but the true test begins now." Kaito leaned closer. His reflection appeared, but it was not just his face. Shadows of fear, sorrow, and anger twisted around him, forming ghostly shapes that whispered every regret and every longing he had buried. "You must face yourself," the voice continued. "Accept all that you are, all that you fear. Only then can you move forward." Kaito swallowed hard. His father's voice echoed in his mind. "Strength comes from knowing your own heart, Kaito." I accept it," he whispered. Tears ran down his face. "All of it. My fear, my sadness, my longing." The shadows around him shivered and dissolved. The pool's light pulsed stronger, brighter, and the cavern shook, as if acknowledging his acceptance. From the pool, a figure emerged. It was massive, its form both human and ethereal, glowing with the same blue light. Eyes like stars looked down at Kaito. "I am the spirit of the mountain," it said, voice resonating like rolling thunder. "You have passed the first trial, the trial of the heart." Kaito bowed, his knees trembling. I did it?" "Yes," the spirit said. "But the mountain still tests the body and the mind. Only then will you know your true strength." The spirit's hand extended, revealing a path of jagged stones hovering over a bottomless void. The trail twisted upward into the clouds, each step requiring balance and focus. "This is your trial of the body," the spirit said. "One false step and the mountain claims you. Step carefully," his determination. Step by step, he moved across the floating stones. The abyss below seemed to whisper doubts, memories of past fears, the shadow of loneliness creeping back. But Kaito remembered Luma's words and the trials he had already overcome. He focused on the rhythm of his breathing, the memory of his father's courage, the echo of the forest whispers. Slowly, carefully, he crossed the gap. Finally, he reached the final ledge. The sun was rising, spilling golden light over the mountain's peak. Below, the forest stretched endlessly, and far away, the river glittered like a silver ribbon. Kaito stood tall, chest heaving. He had faced his shadow. He had conquered the mountain's body. Only the last trial remained, the trial of the mind. The spirit led him to a plateau where strange visions floated in the air. Past, present, and possible futures all intertwined. Faces of friends and foes, laughter and tears, successes and failures, each vision tested his clarity. "Your mind is the final battleground," the spirit said. "You must see the truth within the illusions. Only a clear mind can understand the mountain's secret." Kaito closed his eyes, centering himself. "I see now. Fear, anger, regret, they are all parts of me, but they do not control me."
Slowly, the visions merged into a single point of brilliant light, the essence of the mountain itself. Kaito reached out, and the light enveloped him. Warmth, clarity, and strength flowed into him, filling every corner of his being. When the light faded, he stood alone, but transformed. His eyes gleamed with determination. He was no longer the boy who had entered the forest. He was a true child of the mountain, ready to face whatever awaited beyond the ridge. Kaito stepped onto the summit, the wind brushing his face. The world stretched endlessly below him. Forests, rivers, and distant villages bathed in morning light. The mountain had tested his heart, body, and mind, and now he felt a power coursing through him, quiet yet undeniable. He raised the gourd to the sky. "I am ready," he whispered.
The mountain spirit appeared beside him, a glowing presence in the dawn. "The trials you have faced are but the beginning," it said. "Beyond this ridge lies the path to your destiny. Only those who carry courage and wisdom can continue." Kaito nodded. "I understand. I will not falter." The path ahead was narrow and winding, flanked by sheer cliffs. Mist curled around the rocks, and the air was thin and biting. Each step required focus, as the mountain seemed alive, testing his endurance even now. He moved carefully, relying on the lessons of the trials he had faced.
Suddenly, the clouds parted, revealing a hidden valley below. It glimmered with vibrant colors, rivers weaving like silver threads, and ancient trees standing like guardians of the land. "This is the Valley of Ancestors," the spirit said. "Here, the mountain's true wisdom will be revealed." Kaito's heart pounded. He had come so far, yet he knew the greatest challenge awaited him here. In the center of the valley, a circle of ancient stones stood, etched with carvings that glowed faintly in the morning sun. The air hummed with energy, as if time itself had paused. The spirit gestured toward the stones. "Step into the circle and let the mountain's history speak to you. Only then will you understand your purpose." Kaito approached cautiously, awe and anticipation filling his chest. As he entered the circle, visions appeared, figures of ancestors who had walked this path centuries before. They moved gracefully, their faces serene yet powerful, their eyes full of wisdom. "You carry their legacy," the spirit said. "Their courage flows within you. Learn from them and let your heart guide your next step." Kaito closed his eyes, letting the visions wash over him. He felt connected to something far greater than himself. The ancestors' energy merged with his own. He felt strength, clarity, and understanding flood his being. Memories of his father, the forest, and the trials he had faced intertwined, shaping a vision of his true potential. I see now," he whispered. "I am part of something greater. I will honor this path." The spirit nodded, the glow around it brightening. "You are ready to return to your world. Carry the wisdom, courage, and clarity you have gained. Your journey has just begun." Kaito stepped back from the circle, the weight of the mountain's lessons steady in his heart. He turned toward the path that would lead him home, feeling stronger and wiser than ever. As he descended, the sun dipped low, casting golden light over the forest. Birds soared through the sky, and the rivers sparkled like liquid gold. Every step felt lighter, every breath filled with a new sense of purpose. The mountain had tested him, and now he was ready to face the world beyond. Finally, Kaito reached the edge of the forest, the valley stretching endlessly before him. He looked back at the mountain, majestic, silent, and eternal. With a deep breath,
he stepped forward into the horizon, carrying the courage, wisdom, and spirit of the mountain within him. The adventure was not over. It had only just begun. Kaito returned to his village, the first rays of sunlight warming the rooftops. People began their day, unaware of the journey he had undertaken. Yet, he carried a quiet confidence now, a sense that he had been shaped by forces far beyond ordinary understanding.
As he walked past the river where children played, Kaito noticed their laughter echoing through the valley. Their innocence reminded him of why he had embarked on this journey, to protect and nurture the life around him. The village elders watched him silently. They had seen him leave as a boy and now returned as someone transformed. There was respect in their eyes, a recognition that Kaito carried the wisdom of the mountain within him. Kaito shared the lessons he had learned about courage, patience, and listening to the heart. The villagers gathered around, hanging on every word, as he described the hidden valley and the trials he had faced. Night fell, and the sky was dotted with countless stars. Kaito sat alone for a moment, feeling the vastness of the universe above him. He realized that his journey was not just for himself. It was a thread in the tapestry of life that connected all things. He visited the sacred forest near the village, where a soft glow illuminated ancient trees. Here he meditated, letting the energy of the mountain and the ancestors flow through him. The forest seemed alive, acknowledging his growth. At the riverbank, the moon reflected in the water, creating a mirror of silver light. Kaito felt a sense of serenity and purpose. He understood that every challenge, every fear, had led him to this moment of clarity. The villagers celebrated the harvest festival, and Kaito joined them with a heart full of gratitude. He danced, laughed, and shared stories, knowing that his journey had brought blessings not just to himself, but to everyone around him. From a distant hill, Kaito looked back at the mountain that had tested him. Its peaks shimmered in the morning light, silent yet eternal. He bowed in respect, knowing the mountain's lessons would guide him forever. Inspired by his journey, Kaito began training younger villagers to face their own challenges. He guided them gently, teaching them courage, wisdom, and respect for the world around them. The cycle of learning and growth continued. Finally, Kaito walked toward the horizon, the village behind him and the world ahead. He carried the spirit of the mountain, the wisdom of the ancestors, and a heart ready for any adventure that awaited. His story had become a legend, inspiring all who would follow.